Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 430, Mr. Somich.
2023. Huzzah!
Boy, it is back by popular demand. Mike, I don't know about you. I'm sure you had the same thing. I had a lot of our followers, Magic Mike Show Army, reach out. Are you okay? Is everything all right? Are you and Mike doing well? We took a couple of weeks off for the holidays, and it was, well, for me, it was a glorious time to recharge. You had a slightly different experience.
I was sick most of the time. Honestly, the lack of communication on our front of not saying the show was off for 2 weeks just made me feel the love even more, because then people asked what's going on. So it was good. I got to say, too, it was nice to take a break and kind of step back. Obviously, Malibu Day, I was engaged doing the bomb, so I was covering one or two tracks over the weekend, and it's successful, which has been nice, too. We'll get into that in a second. But horse racing's tough. It's year round, and it's a grind if you want to take it on every single day. Look at past performances, be it on paper or in front of your computer every single day. And it's literally the only sport you don't really have an off season, right? You have lulls, but never really an off season. So it was nice to step back for a couple weeks. Yes, I spent about a week in bed, but that was fine because I got to just recharge, watch some of the National Treasure series, caught up on the Jack Ryan series over on Amazon. So it was a nice little holiday.
You know, a week in bed is how I spent my honeymoon. There's no reason to discount having a good week time in bed. Listen, it was a good time to recharge. Like you mentioned, there are lulls. Usually it's like right after the Triple Crown season. That's usually when the Belmont ends, we all just go, okay, we can sit back for a couple of weeks. And then Stars and Stripes Festival's back, and then off we go again. But yeah, no, it was great to see all the messages. We're happy to be back, and we're back at Gulfstream Park. When we last left, things weren't going well on the Magic Mike Show with our Gulfstream Park attempts. The last show we did, everything got rained off and was just a shit show anyways. You, my friend, you've gotten a little hot in the last week or so here, including, by the way, Shadi brings it up. If you missed it, Mike gave out a free Pick 5 ticket for $67.50 that cashed for $2,300. A lot of people I saw cashed in on that with you, buddy.
Yeah, it was fun getting the messages from that. A couple people on track had it as well, so I got some DMs about cashing it on track, which is a wonderful experience. And it's been a good couple of weeks. We cashed 4,200 in tickets at Gulfstream Park last weekend. Kick it off with the $2,300 Pick 5 on Wednesday. Swept the Aqueduct card today for a little over 1,000 in cashes on the bombs as well. Nice. So nice to be on a little bit of a heater after that recharge. Hopefully we can keep it going into the weekend. It's going to be a monster weekend. You've got First Racing, which is going to do these cross-country Pick 5s, $1 denomination, 15% takeout, so low takeout. Santa Anita and Gulfstream Park, two of the tracks I'll be covering a lot this weekend. So excited to have that there. We've got the mandatory payout on Saturday in the Pick 6 at Santa Anita they just announced. $3 million sitting in that pool, waiting to be taken down. So pretty cool to see these big-time pools coming up right when we're starting to feel a little bit of that heater. So hopefully we just kind of keep it running here and have a couple good weeks at Gulfstream Park, Santa Anita, and Aqueduct. No turf. No turf. I refuse.
Yeah, Turfway does its own thing. By the way, Turfway, if you are watching live, if you're on the podcast, sorry, you're going to miss this, but Nick Feldman's got a tip here. Race 5, the number 8 Ravens Nest, a 20-1 morning line. I don't know anything about it other than it's at Turfway, and Nick Feldman's usually pretty sharp. So you've got that going on. We've got a big show. We've got Gulfstream Park's late Pick 5, a pair of Turf Mile Stakes races for 3-year-olds, newly turned 3-year-olds. So, Mike, let's get into it, buddy. Yes, sir.
One more thing I want to mention, just real quick about we talk about takeout and we talk about playing these carryover pools a lot. Parks that hit for $2,300. So the winner of the first race in the Pick 5 paid $4.60 to win. The Pick 4 in the last 4 races paid $378. The Pick 5 paid $2,300. You got almost essentially you got close to 8-1 on a horse that paid $460 to win if you played that Pick 5 instead of playing the Pick 4 because of Park's ridiculous 24% takeout on that Pick 4 and the carryover amount and the low takeout on the Pick 5. It makes a huge difference playing low takeout and playing these carryover pools. So if you're choosing where to spend your money, choosing the right pool is as important as anything else.
And if you've been following us long enough on the Magic Mike Show, we did initially do Pick 4 sequences, and a big reason we moved to Pick 5s was for that reason. The takeout gets so much better at a lot of these tracks, especially on the late ones. So that's good. Yeah, I did not know about that. That is That's pretty
Wow.
darn ridiculous. Was that the winner of that first leg? Was that the one that you singled? I can't remember.
I singled Riding with Biden, the 6-horse in the third leg. The 8-horse was a first-time starter. First, it was a maiden special weight. 8-horse went gate to wire. Was 3-1 in the morning line, but went off at 6-5. And then that 6-5 shot in front of a $370 pick 4 paid $2,300.
Let's see if we can catch some more tickets today, Mike. Gulfstream Park Saturday late pick 5. Here we go. Riders up. All right, Mike, here we go. Kicking off the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park Saturday, January 7th. Happy 2023, everybody. Race 7, the Dania Beach Stakes. 7 3-year-old colts going a mile on the turf. A favorite, number 2, Major Dude at 8-5. But where are you going on top?
This is interesting. We've never had one of these before. The 4-horse Congruent is a Stable 'em Up horse out of the Pulpit Stakes on December. The Stable 'em Up video over on YouTube on the Racing Dudes channel, December 14th. If you want to go check that out and get the full breakdown. Congruent was first time on the turf that day. They tried to get him on turf 3 back. The race rains off, ends up winning that race, and then going to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile on the dirt. Faces 3 very good horses in that spot. Then comes back to that turf stakes, the Pulpit, and had a ton of trouble in the first turn. Ari Gold ends up winning that race, going gate to wire, a very good horse who has a bright future. And in the first turn, Congruent just gets boxed in. You'll see a big-time checks out of third, all the way back to 6th. And then around the second turn, we're going into it, gets squeezed out between the 2 and the 6-horse, loses the inside path, has to check back to 5th, and then rally up the rail, ends up just missing 2nd in that race. And oh, by the way, they went 24-2 in the opening quarter. So not really easy to close into that type of pace at Gulfstream. This just seems like a horse that wants the turf, is going to be better on the turf, had a ton of trouble last time out. And here we are sitting at a 5-1 price. I love the Congruent. I love the 4 Congruent on top here.
Yeah, I went too deep here. Wasn't my top pick, but definitely beat out the other horses that I had considered. We talked about the tough trip. The horse, so Ari Gold was a heavy favorite, 1 gate to wire. Second place was already a stakes winner routing on synthetic. You had horses behind him that were also stakes winners, 2 other horses. So it was a very good, especially for not being a championship meet stakes, because it was only December 10th when the race was held. It was a very, very good field that he was facing there. And the highest time form figure in the entire field belongs to Congruent for that Pulpit effort. So that's higher than Major Dude, who's won a graded stakes on turf and was in the Breeders' Cup. That's higher than my top choice, the number 7 Worthington, who is 2 for 2 at this 2-turn mile distance, including last time out with Luis Saez aboard. You hyped up your Stable 'em Up, which, by the way, it's in the chat. You can see the link is there. You can go look at but Mike's full Stable 'em Up video. But I also really liked Worthington because of that effort in the Stars of Tomorrow 2 card at Churchill Downs. They only had a couple turf races, so you know that they've got a ton of horses that will look in Kentucky looking for good turf purses. They all faced Worthington, and Worthington beat him pretty well. He's got the tactical speed to sit close and pounce. Gulfstream Park's turf course tradition plays well to speed. I think there's cheap speed in here. You could see the 5 probably quit out pretty soon. The 3 might go, or the 1 likes to be on the lead, but is not very fast. So I don't know what they're going to do with that horse. I think the 7 is going to be a great position to sit and pounce. And Saez riding for Maker just tells me that this horse has got a ton of ability, steadily improving buyers all 3 starts. I think it's all systems go.
Yeah, I have the 7 as my second pick here. I agree with you. I like the outside post here. Generally, I don't want an outside post in these 7.5 furlong races or mile races on the turf at Gulfstream. But with just 7 horses, it's not bad, especially considering, and you hit the nail on the head, the 1, the 3, and the 5 all kind of want to be forwardly placed. So you'd expect to see all 3 of them forwardly placed and kind of hitting the go button there. I expect the 7 to get a fairly good trip sitting right behind them. The question really is going to be where the 2 Major Dude is and how far back Congruent is. But I don't think the 7 is going to be any more than 2 wide on that first turn, tracking 3 horses who are going to be out there setting a pretty good pace, all of which I agree with you are cheaper speed. And at Gulfstream, if you have cheap speed, but there's only 1 of them, they're very dangerous. When there's 3 of them, you'd expect there's going to be some type of hookup up there and set it up for much better horses that are coming from off the pace. I also love the progression from Worthington here. I mean, 3 starts, 63 buyer, 70 buyer, 82 buyer, faced a good field 2 or 3 back at Kentucky Downs, first time out going 7 furlongs, came back, breaks the maiden at Keeneland, comes back right to Churchill Downs and two lifetime allowance and wins right there. So faced pretty quality fields, even for the levels that we were looking at. I mean, that's Kentucky Downs, Keeneland, Churchill, very good fields in those spots. So I was 4-7 as my top 2 picks. So I agree with you on the 7 there. I'm going to include the 6 horse as well. Zach, who is first time here in North America for Grand Motion, gets Rosario up, a horse that showed some closing ability overseas. And to me, kind of the wild card of the bunch here, right? We talk about knowns and unknowns. This horse is definitely the unknown of the field. I'm interested to see what the price is going to be. 92 on the morning line, I think, is probably a little bit of a pipe dream. I think we're staring more at 3-1, maybe 7-2, somewhere in that range. But look at that last race. At Longchamp in France, $294,000 allowance. 16 horses. That's a pretty impressive race to come out of, to come into the United States. A lot of times we see like, oh, they won a $10,000 maiden in Ireland and now they're coming over, right? This is a big time horse, run 7 times, 3 wins, 2 seconds, 2/3, never missed the board. I like this 6 here at a sneaky bit of a price. So I'm going to end up 3 deep here. I'm going to go with a 4, 6, 7. Try to get around the 2, Major Dude, who probably will be your favorite. And I don't think deserves to be your favorite in this spot.
Not like 98% of that horse's Suzak, his purse earnings came from that one race. And it's funny, that race, so he ended up in Grand Motion's care hours after that race was done. He was in a sale at Arcana, and they paid $392,000 for this horse and then brought him over. And Grand Motion's actually quoted as saying the plan was to go to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf with him, and the horse just got sick. But they thought the timing was going to be right. He was informed for it. This is literally the last horse off my ticket. I think it would have been like a $96 ticket instead of $72 for me. You've got Kodiak as a sire as a sprinter overseas, but the dam sire is Naif, who was a multiple group stakes champion going 10-12 furlongs. So you've got speed on top, stamina on the bottom. I think this is a horse that when we get to like say Preakness weekend, this horse I think is definitely probably going to be favored, but probably is going to be a big stakes candidate. Preakness weekend at Pimlico, I'm just not so sure that I honestly, Mike, what it was, the time form ratings, his overseas ratings, when you translate it into buyers, puts him right there where the 1 is at. But you're getting Rosario. It is Grand Motion. He has had success bringing horses in first time North America and putting them straight into stakes races. So watch the tote on this one. I was with you. I think that maybe he's going to get bet a little heavily, and that kind of scared me off him a little bit. But Rosario not only riding him, Rosario was working this horse at Palmettos recently. So he knows what this horse is capable of doing. It definitely caught my attention when I saw that. Let's talk real quick before we move on. Neither of us are touching the favorite Major Dude here. My biggest reason, I think he's going to get hammered way beyond what he should be. He won the Pilgrim. So people will say, well, he's got a grade 2 win, going 2 turns on turf. And then he was in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf where, yes, he had a very wide trip both times. I looked at the Pilgrim field, Mike. 8 rivals from that race have run back. Only one of them has hit the board, and it was a maiden who was in the Pilgrim, then got third in a maiden special weight. So it was a very slowly run race. It was an oddly run race. I didn't like Major Dude, especially not at 8-5 here.
Yeah, it was 10-1 in that turf win too, in the Pilgrim. So it was a price in the Pilgrim, jumps into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. And I think it's going to get bet off of essentially running in that race. Not necessarily running well in that race, but just being in that race. And for me, when I look at this and I see, honestly, 2 horses in the U.S. that are better than him, he needs to improve to get to either Congruent or Worthington, and an additional unknown horse in Sauzak, who that last race, again, I realize that, the workouts haven't been great over synthetic. I get it. Motion 0-12, first time North America. I get it. I think he's probably the 4th best horse that we've seen on paper right now. And you're getting 8-5 on the morning line. I think the horse gets around that price as the off odds. I'd be shocked if we're like even money on this horse, but I think you're probably going to see, that 7-5, 8-5 range. To me, that's just way too short in a pretty competitive field when you have to improve to be able to get the job done here. So, I went back and forth on Major Dude. I decided this was one of those favorites where I'd rather take a stand against than kind of use defensively here, because I do like the 4. I do like the 7. So I feel like the opinion, you got to back up there and just leave the favorite off.
Let's move on. Mike's second leg of the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park, Saturday, January 7th, race 8. We're going on the synthetic for one race and one race only, and it's this one. We've got 11 older males, 4 and up, going 1 mile and 70 yards. They've either started for a claiming tag of 12.5 or less in the last year, or they're currently in for a $20,000 tag, which Equibase doesn't show anybody does have that stipulation. I think a couple do. The favorite's the number 7, Fly the W at 5-2. Last time that we covered this horse, I think it was 2 shows back, so early December. this horse won. He was in a race with a lot of these Poppy's Boy, Wicked Finn, a lot of horses that are going to, Momza that return here. He's my top pick in this spot. I'm not a Cubs fan, but I am a big fan of Fly the W here. Did you make Fly the W your top pick?
My second choice. That last race is just phenomenal. Runs a 93 buyer. Career best prior to that was an 81. So you saw a massive jump forward, and that was second time in a barn. So it's kind of a logical spot where you could see that type of improvement, but just a phenomenal number for that specific level. If you remember that race too, it was very oddly run. We talked a lot about the Thursday preview show, how much speed we expected. And then the race played out and no one went. So it was just one of those weird spots where Fly the W kind of got the perfect trip. You knew he was going to win around the first turn because you didn't have 3 or 4 horses that really went. I'm going to use Fly the W here, but I'm going to kind of cautiously use Fly the W. Fly the W could go off at 7-5 in this race and does not deserve to be a 7-5 favorite. I actually put the 4-horse Sand Dancer at 15-1 on top here. So taking a little bit of a shot. Sand Dancer is one of those horses where you got to look back at the synthetic races and look at the level that this horse has been running against. We go back to December 19th of 2021. This horse is a $35,000 claimers, was able to win. Runs a $70,000 handicap next time out. It's an 83 buyer, ends up running 5th there. The next time we're on synthetics, it's a $62,000 open claimers or optional claimers there, which is a tough level. Ends up running 6th in that spot. If we can run back to those synthetic races where we get the 83 buyers, that's good enough to beat this field, assuming Fly the W doesn't fly off the handle again and get a ridiculous number. And you're getting 15-1 on a horse that's going to be third off the layoff here. I kind of like this price here for a horse that should be rounding into form and now gets back onto the best surface against the lowest level he's ever faced. I'll take a shot here with the 4 15-1 Sand Dancer.
I was surprised if the morning line's 15-1 because of what you just said. He is taking he's never been in for 20K before, and he is in, again, Equibase isn't showing it, but Sand Dancer is in for that optional $20,000 tag. He's never been in for that low of a price before, and he's, freshly turned 8 years old, so you don't expect too many people are going to be diving in for him here. He's one I considered. I didn't end up using him just because I had to go all the way back to that December race to show or to find a spot where I thought he really was actually, passing horses, and that's what he's going to have to do here. But Panici's back aboard for the second time. He was in for 35. We're dropping down to 20K. I don't think that's it's not a scary drop here. I think it fits. And you see the one work that he's had since then. He did 4 furlongs and 46 flat. So he still apparently has some speed in there. He just hasn't had a chance to show it in his races yet.
Yeah, that was his only work over synthetic as well. All the other rest of the works are over the dirt course. This race to me sets up pretty well for someone to come from off the pace. The 1 horse has cheap speed. It's going to go and quit. The 2 horse, cheap speed, going to go and quit. The 3 horse has speed, should go. I mean, it is another situation. The 5 horse wants to be out front. Fly the W, generally forwardly placed. I mean, this is a race where you've got a lot of horses that want to get out there. And it sets up for someone who's going to be able to come from off the pace and pass horses. And, oh, by the way, the synthetic course plays to those horses that are coming off the pace and passing horses. So it's one of those spots where there's some warts on Sand Dancer. I don't disagree with that. But I'm getting 15-1. I can rub a lot of those warts off at a 15-1 price tag.
There's a lot of warts on a lot of these horses in this race here. And that's okay. You know what? They're still beautiful in their own right. Second up for me is the number 3 Wicked Finn at 8-1. If you scratch off that last race when he broke slowly and was way behind, he's never, ever been 6-7 lengths behind early like he was in that spot. If you forget about that, he has been forwardly placed and speed doesn't always 2 turns on synthetic, especially when there's other speed in here. Doesn't always play out that way. But if you go back to June 9th of last year, at the 12.5K claiming level, he was sitting 5th, going over this exact course and distance, ends up drawing off to win by 5.5 lengths, a lower class level. Joel Rosario's hopping aboard. For Blake Kelly, who, bless him, had 1 win from 44 starts last year. He had 17 horses hit the board, but he only had 1 win from 44 starts. Why the hell is Joel Rosario riding for this guy for the first time? Never has before, at least not in the last 2 years. I think Rosario is not going to send. We can probably assume that. So if he pulls the horse back, maybe he's got the ability to get the horse to accelerate like he was able to do back of June 9th of last year. A couple of big ifs there, but again, talking about Blake Kelly, he only had the 1 win in all of 2022. When he claimed this horse out of its last victory over the Gulfstream Park synthetic, the horse came back and was 3rd by a length, 2nd by a half length. So the horse continues to run well for Blake Kelly. Just maybe he needs a little bit of racing luck. What's luckier than Joel Rosario, right?
Well, a lot of things are luckier, Joe Rosario. Horse did win twice, or win with Miguel Vasquez up, who I think is probably the second best jockey that's ridden this horse. So I do like that. I do like the fact that you pointed back to that race where he came from off the pace, because I mean, Charles here dead on. Speed on the lead and Tapita is an instant fade when you're going 2 turns right now. So if Rosario does try to shove this 3, I think it's a lot of trouble. I didn't dislike the 3. I just didn't get deep enough to get to the 3 on my ticket. I did use the 6 horse Poppy's Boys, who beat the 3 horse 2 back in that race that you referenced, where the 3 was able to be more forwardly placed and then kind of got swept by the 6 horse Poppy's Boy to get to the front. This is a horse who needs pace to be able to run into, and I think we're going to get that today. It's one of the main reasons I like this horse. We've won over the Gulfstream Park Synthetic, won at this distance. It's the horse at 6 for 29 lifetime, so it does like to get the job done here. Third off the layoff. Hopefully we're running into form. I like that last work, 30-5 flats over at Palm Meadows. And I like Gonzalez here as a rider as well. 1 for 1 with this horse. It was over turf, but at least was able to get the job done. And I'm getting, again, a 15-1 price. So what I did here is I played Fly the W, who I do think is your deserving favorite. And if can replicate that last race, it's going to be real tough to beat. But I'm going to play 2 15-1 shots with Fly the W, because I think the race sets up well for both of them. And I can at least point back to races where they've won and be able to say, hey, you run that back, you win this race as well at a pretty big number.
And it's interesting, if anybody has a good enough memory, both Mike and I correctly faded Poppy's Boys in that race last time out. And a big difference between that race and this one is there's more speed in this one. There really wasn't much speed in that race that Fly the W won so handily. But he did have more pace, 2 back, and he's going to get a similar setup here. Interesting that Kentucky Derby winning jockey Sonny Leon has been kicked off of this horse for Edwin Gonzalez. I think he's still running this weekend. Maybe Sonny got himself in some trouble and he got suspended. I'm not too sure, but it's not so sunny days for Sonny Leon down in Florida, but we'll see what happens with this horse. Last up for me, I did use the 10 as well. Cadet Corps, a horse that was also in the sequence that we covered. Man, a lot of these horses coming right back here on the turf, in for that 16K tag. Liz Doblay's first off the claim, very strong. Got this horse to win. That was the first time it ever won on turf. It was down at the correct level. Now I think we're still at the correct level here. You see the horse's performances on synthetic at this level, the optional claiming starter allowance levels. Got the win 2 back over this course, in for the 12.5K tag, really just whipped on those horses there. But what I love the most, Mike, is that it's a horse that I think traditionally might be best on synthetic. That's where the horse has mostly been running for the 5 career wins are from there. But you also had a career best buyer last time out on turf, and now we're switching back over here. Tyler Gaffleone's going to keep riding this horse. I think that's a strong move as well. I understand if you don't want to play this, because a lot of the synthetic form, you need to build off of that turf effort, and now back on synthetic to have the buyer that will win this race against this field. I'm going to take the shot because I love that I'm getting 8-1 on this horse.
I mean, one of the younger horses in the field as well, just turned 4-year-old. And so you can make an argument that we still have some room to improve here with this horse, and that you can see that switch to the barn and then take a step forward, possibly another one here, second time in the barn. To me, it's the post that's part of the issue. The trip is going to be tough. You're probably hung 3 wide on both turns here. You're going to get some pace to chase into, but you're also stepping up. One positive, I will say, horse is protected for the first time. They've claimed this horse for 12.5, moved to 16. Obviously, when you're a 16K claimer, anyone can go buy that horse. Now we're up here in 20 level. We're protecting the horse. So it tells you that Doblaze likes this one. You mentioned Gaffleon riding back. This is actually my 4th choice in the race. So if I did go one more deeper, it would have been the 10. I had the 8 as a consideration as well. Burning Man, who's coming in from Woodbine for Kevin Attard, who I thought had a couple races that fit. I'm not sure if we're going to go long enough here. I think that was the main concern for me for the 8 horse, whose most successful races seem to have been longer than this distance today. But I thought that one, though both of those horses were playable as well if you want to go deeper here.
Of the Woodbine horses in here, which would be the 8, the 9, and the 1, I thought that the 8 was probably the most playable, but Kevin Attard, very strong at Woodbine, did 20% winners last year for his stable. He barely hits 10% when he comes down to Gulfstream Park with him. It's a tougher spot here than it is up at Woodbine. You mentioned too, he might not be long enough. If there's a big pace collapse, at least this horse won it 1 mile and an 1/8 by almost 6 lengths last time out. He's going to keep coming. So, I think that maybe for this horse, I'd want a little bit better price, and you're not going to get that just because if you look at his synthetic effort 3 back. So the third time back, he had a 92 buyer, wins by over 6 lengths at the 25K level, but that was going a mile and a quarter. So I feel you on, might just be a little bit too short for this spot. Let's move on, Mike. We got a third leg now of the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park, Saturday, January 7th, race 9. We're going to the Ginger Brew Stakes back on the turf, a field of 9 3-year-old fillies doing the mile route here. The favorite is the number 3 Cairo Consort at 7-5. I almost singled this horse. You actually did.
Yeah, we singled up Cairo Consort here. You can hear in my voice, I don't love singling this type of favorite, but this was kind of twofold for me. First off, the other horses I was considering to use were the 6 and the 9. I really wasn't excited about using either of these horses. And secondly, no shade here at Nathan Squires, but this is a nice little barn change from Squires over to Pletcher. And so you'd expect that the horse is going to improve. I thought ran really well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Filly. She showed a lot of spunk there, just missed in the Talma up at Woodbine. This should be a positive barn switch. The horse has tactical speed to stay close from this post position. There's some other speed in here, but should be able to sit close, specifically right behind the 4 horse, who should go out to the front and get first run. You get Ortiz to pick up the mount for Pletcher. This horse, this is a Daughter Cairo Prince, which stands for $15,000. This horse sold for $875,000 and then went to the Nathan Squires barn. Okay, it's just wild to me. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, actually, that was after the Breeders' Cup. They actually paid $875,000 for her after the Breeders' Cup.
So anyway, Rapoli spent $875,000 to send her to the Todd Pletcher barn. I'll still make the same case, just in a different manner. So to me, this is a horse that you would expect is going to take huge steps forward this year, switching barns, and a big-time step up here. So I'm going to single the 3 Cairo Consort. I will be pissed if the 9 wins specifically. I know you can make a case for the 6 or the 9, but we're going to try and keep this ticket pretty cheap, just $54. And because of that, you got to single somewhere. This was the horse that I felt had the best chance to win in the card.
And a great point too, that there's no horse like the Meditate or Pleasant Passage in this race. The horses that, by the way, came from extremely off the pace and swept right by her. She was second or third the whole time around, and just she was chasing Spirit Gal, who I fated to be next to last in that race at the Breeders' Cup, and she just kept on going. It's not like with Major Dude where he was close up front and then the real running started and he just went. So. Two very different horses, I believe, here. Pletcher's had a lot of glowing things to say about Cairo Consort. Interesting that there's no turf works for her since Pletcher took over her training, but it's Pletcher. I'm not going to doubt him here. He's very excited about this, seems very excited about this horse. I did go too deep. I did use the Chad Brown, the new shooter 6, Anna Karenin, the horse that has 2 wins from overseas in France, comes over now for Madicat Stables, who loves to buy these fillies from Europe and then bring them over here, give them to Chad Brown. Chad Brown, by the way, as of when we're recording right now, 7 starters, hasn't missed the board with 2 wins so far at this championship meet. Stakes placed in France by 1 1/4 lengths over Suzak, 2 back. Suzak, the horse that's in the Dania Beach that you used that I ended up not using, but I do like that. Interesting enough, the only time she ever faced fillies, she was 5th, being 4 lengths. That was last time out, but it was a Group 2 in France, so hopefully the time off. I know Chad Brown has had her for several months, it sounds like. So she's got it. He's understanding of who this filly is. A little interesting. I thought that Tyler Gaffleone was riding, but Chad Brown has used T-Gaff, at Keeneland, occasionally up in New York. You look at where, Irad is on the 3. So you know that Chad's not going to use Irad. Luis Saez is on the 9, who we both like, but I don't think Saez wants to leave because of the win last time out. And who's left? Rosario's riding the Navy Goat, and Jose Ortiz is stuck riding the 5. So, a little interesting that T-Gaff is on there. I don't love that I'm going to use the chalk 7-5 and 3-1 here, but I think outside of these 2 horses, maybe the 9, but I think the 9 is just, I think she needs one more race. She's going maiden special weight straight up to face these fillies. It's a big step for her.
It is. We talk a lot about Sherry DeVoe. She's able to get the job done for these type of horses, though. One of those barns that can improve a horse vastly. It's one of the reasons I looked at that 9 so closely. On the 6 horse, Anna Karina, one of the issues I had is that this is a horse that wants to be on the lead. It was on the lead in Europe, and now we're coming here to the U.S. Our lead is a lot faster than the Europe lead, right? We go quicker in those early furlongs. The 4 horse specifically is going to burn and quit. If the 6 tries to go with the 4, it's going to be brutal. And you mentioned Brown, 7 starts, 2 wins, 4 seconds, 1/3. I know at least one horse he had on today's card that hit the board but missed. I guarantee you has a negative ROI because, man, every single one of his horses is going off right now at sub 2-1 at the Gulfstream Park. And there are some that are absolutely running clunkers. So I would not be he's getting overbet drastically right now at Gulfstream Park.
I'm going to figure it out right now what his ROI is. If I had to figure, it's been 11 days that the championship meet's been going on. $1.29 ROI.
So negative 61 cents.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I mean, it's not Chad's fault that he gets bet so heavily.
No, it is his fault they don't win. The 7 horse was the one horse who I do think is interesting here, sitting on the board at 8-1. Navy Goat breaks the maiden over Kentucky Downs, faced a pretty good field that day, comes back, wins a stakes race, a state-bred stakes race over the Tapeta here, gets a really bad number for it. But before we bash the horse for the bad number, 63 buyer, they went 26-2, 53 to the first half. It would have been impossible to put up a big buyer number. We actually saw this with our buddy Geist horse Oakhurst, who got a terrible number breaking the maiden on synthetic because of how slow the early pace was. And she swept up and won from behind. I think there's a little more talent in the 7 Navy Goat than that's necessarily showing. If I was going to take a swing here, the 7 Navy Goat at 8-1 would be the horse I'd include.
Yeah, it's interesting. Rosario picking the mount back up here. And you talk about those splits. Navy Goat specifically in that race. Opening quarter, 26.7 seconds. Opening hat from the quarter to the half, 26.7 seconds. Half to the 3/4, 24 flat. So she just sat there. Okay, go. So ended up flying. One that I'm probably the most nervous about there. But yeah, I think Cairo Consort, she should win this. She should tower over them. And I just use the unknown, the new shooter, just like you did in the Dania Beach 2-back. Let's move on, Mike. The penultimate leg of the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, January 7th, race 10. We're on the dirt. Only time here, a 1-turn mile. It drew 7 males, 4 and up. It's the N2X allowance level. 2 in here from my buddy Safi Joseph Jr. The favorite, if he runs, because he's been nominated for a sprint stakes in a week or two. But if the number 6 Papa Cap runs, he's your 2-1 favorite. A reminder that he started his career winning his first 2 starts and hasn't sniffed the winner's circle since then. Did you use him?
I did. I'm going to try and beat him, but I'm going to use him here. 2-1 also a pipe dream, by the way. This horse is going off at even money, maybe less. If we end up running here, it's actually one of the reasons why I'm trying to get around Papa Cap. I think it's interesting that Picking Up Penny shows up here. You've got 2 horses, the inside and the outside, that absolutely want to gun it and are going to make it hard for Papa Cap to go gate to wire, which is the exact situation I'd be most scared of him in here against this type of field. Is if he was able to get to the lead, you've got a classier horse who's just out front, going to run away from him. But because we have 2 speed horses in here, I think that really kind of turns this race on its head a little bit. It allows you to kind of take a couple shots. We're also going a mile versus 6 or 7 furlongs, which is where I think Papa Cap is also probably a little more difficult to beat. So I think that everything kind of sets up for you to be able to take shots against the 6 here. I did put the 6 on top, but I'm going to sprinkle some prices around. I like the 2 horse a little bit. The other Safi here, 12-volt man, second off the layoff. I think this mile distance is kind of right where we want to be going. You saw a win at a mile 16th over this course. Has won at a mile back in October 14, 2021 as well. Second off the layoff for the Son of Violence, who should get the absolute pace set up here to be able to fly home. You've got 3 horses that want to be on the lead. This one wants to be off it. I feel like the reason Picking Up Pennies and 12-volt man are in together is so you got 1 in the front, 1 in the back, and you're hoping either you get the pace, the wire-to-wire win, or the pace meltdown. So I do like the 2 a little bit here as well, sitting on the board at 92.
That's my top pick here. All 5 wins have been at Gulfstream Park, 2 for 3 over this distance, and the one time he lost, it was in the slot. So I'm going to scratch that out. Won the Claiming Crown Stakes here, going 9 furlongs last December. Huge jockey upgrade to Tyler Caffleone, who, by the way, as a reminder, is still Mark Cassie's favorite jockey to ride. He's not touching the 6 Papa Cap. He's here for Safi. I used him. I used the 7 Picking Up Pennies. It's possible that he's a rabbit for the stablemate, but he's 2 for 2 over this course in distance. And unlike Papa Cap directly to his inside, they're both going to go, I would assume. The 7 showed fight. The 7 knows that he can get, if he gets in a fight, he's shown that he'll get it going and be able to keep trying to finish through to the end. Whereas with Papa Cap, there's a slight worry that I have with this horse that he faced so many good horses. I mean, look, he faced Epicenter, White Nabario, Jack Christopher twice. He was facing all of these great horses. Gunite, maybe his will just got broken a little bit. I mean, the fact that he was never involved in the Amsterdam, a little scary there. Also coming out of that infamous 2021 Breeders' Cup Juvenile race that had Corniche win and Giant Game was third. And where the hell are those two horses right now? That bad things have had. The 4 horses that he was beating to start his career. I mean, the Best Pal Stakes it's never great. So I couldn't use him. I think he's a great candidate to hit the board. I just couldn't, especially at 2-1, I couldn't put him on my ticket.
We also talk about these horses returning, and the best chance to beat horses like this is their first start of the season. Papa Cap was scratched out of a race, I believe it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago. This feels to me like, hey, we need to get one in him before we run him in a stakes race on Pegasus Day. That is exactly how this feels. We don't want to be first off the layoff in those big type of stakes. So even if he's not fully cranked, let's get a race in him. Let's go and let's target the actual race that we want to be running in, because it's not here in a 62.5 optional allowance. So there's a lot of arguments you can make where this is Papa Cap's a fade. However, the most talented horse in this field is Papa Cap. I mean, I don't think we can make an argument against that. It's just whether or not you're going to get the best effort, and today's setup is the best for him. I ended up going 4 deep here. I used the 4 horse as well, Tartufo. It kind of scratched out the last race. It was on the slop. It was a nice effort off a long layoff. It's a 5-year-old at that point, now a 6-year-old who I think needed that race. Now we're cutting back to 1 mile. Hey, guess what? We've won at 1 mile here over this course, have some tactical speed, pick up Irad Ortiz. Like I said, get second off that layoff. I think it's kind of going to be a situation where another race where this horse is going to get a very nice setup behind the 1 and the 7 who are going to gunning out, and that 6 is going to be involved. And hey, this one lost to Strava last time out. There's no shame in losing to Magic Mike horses, right? I mean, if you're a Magic Mike horse, you're elite. So losing to Strava, not so bad. Are you just checking your reflection in that belt, or are you doing something else?
No, I was trying to remember which side of the belt Strava's on.
I think he's the one who got left off. Anyway, race before that, they Scalding a Dynamic one. They're pretty good horses too. So I think Tarfuto is able to sit a nice trip here. And I'm going to take a shot with a price here. The 3-horse Secret Alliance, 12-1. Services do well at Gulfstream from what I hear, right? They've had a winning record there. John's service here, second off the layoff, 36% with a $3.16 ROI. When you get Sias aboard, he's ridden for him 7 times. He's won 3 of those 7 times, $3.16 ROI. This horse showed some talent in the 3-year-old season, specifically early in it, and then took a 6-month break and came back and faced Endorsed and tried to chase him down early, first race off the layoff. I expect a lot better effort second off the layoff here. I think Secret Alliance sitting at 12-1 is a sneaky price that could get the job done.
I considered the 3, didn't make my ticket, but I considered the 3 for the same reason I used the 4, and they both seem very well suited for these longer 1-turn distances where you're going 7 furlongs up to a mile. You look at Tartufo, he was second to Cody's Wish the first time he tried going a mile distance, 1 turn on the dirt. Then he returned to Churchill, went 7 furlongs, misses by a neck. So again, that longer 1-turn distance. And then you mentioned it, he gets the win when he comes to Gulfstream Park. And then Churchill, possibly the slop, he just didn't like it, but still he was third again to the great, wonderful Strava there. By the way, we've talked about 3 in this race. We've talked about 3 of the Magic Mike Show team fantasy horses from last year. But I almost went 2-7. I think the 4 is well suited, and Irad getting aboard for a barn that he never rides for. That was a good one as well. But plenty of ways to go. I'm just hoping if we can beat Papa Cap here, this is going to pay pretty nicely.
Yeah, just one more. Yeah, we're off to a great start in the 3-year-old season here. In the Magic Mike Show, exactly where we were last year, 0-for-1 on claims, just ready to push forward with the squad we got.
Listen, you win a claim, you lose the fantasy league. That's how that one works. 5th and final leg of the late pick 5 at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, January 7th, race 11, back on the turf. I hate that it's 7.5 furlongs and not a mile. It's so dumb to me. I don't understand, but we got 12 maiden 3-year-old boys plus 2 also eligibles in here. The favorite is the number 9 Hardy Choice at 3-1, but plenty of ways to go. Where'd you go on top?
I hate that DRF considers this a turf sprint. That's what bothers me more than anything else about this 7.5 furlong distance. Can we just say 2-turn turf races are routes? Can we just go with that instead, like the logical common sense thing, instead of saying, whoa, it's 7, it's under a mile. It's a turf sprint. It's like, come on, guys. Like, you have some common sense here, because I don't want to see the first time routing, first out mile. No, I want the turf. I want the 2-turn turf numbers. That's what I care about. Killing me, DRF.
Preach, Mike.
I cannot believe you didn't use the 3-horse Mutawid here. This was my top pick in the race, 6-1 on the morning line. This horse debuted at Churchill Downs as a son of Quality Road out of the Hare Mare, Shadwell Stables. It's a Todd Pletcher horse. Always wanted the turf. Faced a really good field in the first out. Corona Bolt and Communication Memo both come back to win. Pletcher clicking off at 27% with a $2.60 ROI second maiden start. Very few Pletcher level trainers are clicking off at any $2.60 ROI in a single stat because of how much they get bet. He gets prices home second time maiden start. This horse was bred for turf, wanted to be on turf the whole time. That first race was just a prep race. Here we are on the turf. And by the way, I love this draw for the horse. The 3 posts, you got to be on the inside right now at Gulfstream over that turf course. You can't be sitting 3 wide and trying to be 3 wide on both turns and win. Saez is one of those guys that injects speed naturally into a horse. And if you look back, the workouts aren't bad. This horse shouldn't have been 10 of 10, 12 lengths back after a 45 and 3.5 miles. So I expect the 3 to show more speed this time. Saez to have the horse more forwardly placed for a horse that was supposed to be on turf the whole time anyway. We're going to improve second out. Give me Mutawid at 6-1 here, second time out.
2 reasons I didn't like the horse, and one you kind of touched on. Yeah, Pletcher's great with second start maidens, but when they go dirt to turf, he's 11% with a $1.60 ROI. I don't believe this horse was meant for the turf, because if he was, you wouldn't have him at Churchill. I didn't honestly understand why he was at Churchill in the first place, and then he got Ricardo Santana Jr. to ride him. The horse, he could be good on the turf. I think he's definitely better than what he showed, because he was slow out of the gate and just never ran. But you would expect, hope that Saez can inject some more speed into him out of the gate there. But I don't think that this horse is he might be a 2-turn horse. I don't know that he's a turf horse. Dam never was on turf, and Quality Road wasn't a turf horse either. You did mention it. Corona Bolt, that's a Kentucky Derby Trail horse, won that race. Communication Memo just won at Oaklawn Park last month. He's going to go to a Derby Trail race for Steve Asmussen there. So 2 good horses to finish, to have been in the top 2 there. I couldn't get myself to use them. I did make the 6 Mooncat my top pick here for Chris Davis and Irad Ortiz Jr. Irad never rides for this barn. Why is he showing up here? It's an interesting move, but tried debuting at 2 turns on the turf, got rained off onto the synthetic instead, but had a series of very nice turf works. That race was just on December 24th, so I like that we're bringing the horse back quickly, and we really want to get this horse onto the turf. So that I think says a lot. The Dam Fantacola, who's a daughter of Silent Name, a very strong sire. She won a grade 2 on turf. The lone sibling to win did so on turf twice. So I like that. I also like that Irad is not riding for Pletcher in this spot. Pletcher's got that 6, or I'm sorry, he's got the 3 in here at 6-1. He's going to ride with the Mooncat instead. So, who am I to doubt the great Irad Ortiz Jr., who just set the record for most stakes wins in a season?
Second pick in this race, that workout 2-back's eye-popping. 57 for 5 furlongs. There is speed here, and we didn't see it the first time out. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do, because there is other speed in this race. Dr. Tang chiming in here with the 4 and the 12, both speed horses. A 4 I had on my ticket originally, ended up taking off. I think it's really cheap speed on the 4. The 12 is one of those that has to fire. That's going to be a tough gate to go gate to wire in, especially with Paco being a dick on the 4 and sending him out as well. So the 12 is actually my next in. Ended up missing the ticket. But I was interested in both of those. They both missed the ticket, though, for me.
I did use the 12, was actually the 4th. I went 4 deep, and it's the last of the 4 for me. But since we brought him up, I'll talk about him. Just like with the Mooncat, tried debuting on turf. It got rained off onto the synthetic. Sire Lope de Vega produces 21% first-time turf horses. Brendan Walsh was having he hasn't continued that success at the championship meet yet, but Brendan Walsh was having a very strong end to 2022 overall. He just needs a little bit of racing luck. Jose Ortiz is going to hop aboard this horse. I am worried about the post, but I've lost count of how many times I've discounted a horse on this show at Gulfstream Park going 2 turns on the turf because of the post, and the horse ends up winning. Not saying that's this horse, because I think those were a lot shorter prices when I did that, but I am going to use Jamestown here. But like I said, it was the 4th of 4 that I used here, so I'm not super gung-ho about him. I just think that Jose Ortiz, I think there's a lot more potential to this horse than what we saw from that debut.
Yep. I mean, I agree with you. It's a lot of why I considered using the horse. I do think you're going to see more speed as well coming out of that 5 furlong race out and stretching out into 2 turns. Last horse I use is the 9-horse Hardy Choice. So I think is your logical favorite here. Kind of the tale of two trips. If you look at the two races we've run so far on the turf here, one goes out to the lead out of the 1 post, then gets the 9 posts and is kind of shuffled back and then tries to make a run. Faced our boy Worthington, who we talked about quite a bit on this show already. 2 back was, just got straight up beat once he got headed, kind of quit and gave it up. Be interested to see what type of trip that Leparoux tries to work out here, but we're adding Lasix for the first time. Lynch, pretty good trainer. The best numbers of anyone in this field. If you don't think the 9's going to win, you're projecting someone else improves, which could definitely happen. But the 9 is one of those really logical choices here in this spot. So I ended up going 3-6-9. I considered using the 4, the 11, and the 12, but just ended up with the 3-6-9 here.
9 was my second choice, and actually, I watched the replay of that Gulfstream Park race last. First of all, slow out of the gate, a little awkward in the gate, and Leparoux didn't push him, which is interesting because his work 2 back before that race, he went 59-4 for 5 furlongs at Palmetto's on their turf course. So the horse has shown speed. He probably would have been more forwardly placed like that Keeneland race, but Leparoux didn't push him. And he honestly should have, if you watch the replay, he really should have not be in this. He should not be a maiden. He just around the 8th pole. And I watched every view possible. I couldn't figure out something spooked the horse because he all of a sudden just literally took a right turn. Leparoux corrected him and then he kept going again. And he almost caught OK Boomer. It didn't work out for him, but I really thought that if he had just maintained a straight course, he would have won that probably by over a length. So, it's 3-1. He's the favorite for a reason, but he really should have won that. And if he get us somewhere in the middle of those 2 trips. Don't be 5 lengths back in 7th or 8th, and don't be trying to set the pace with stupid Paco on the 4. Get like a mid-pack trip, and that should be enough for this horse. But he did show a nice dimension in that last race, Mike. He was able to pass horses and very willing to do it. When Leparoux tipped him out off the turn, he said, yes, I can go. He bumped with Rivals a little bit and brushed it off like it was nothing. So if he doesn't get spooked, this horse isn't a maiden. Last up for me, I'm going to use the number 11, Composer's Dream for Mike Maker, debuting here. Another horse, not a great post position draw. I'm using the 11, 9, 11, and 12. We'll see how this works. Bold move, Cotton. But Maker's getting Gaffleon to ride. This horse, to me, just screams he's bred to go 2 turns on turf. Is out of Mendelssohn, or by Mendelssohn, out of a Bernardini mare. The lone sibling that did make it to the races did win on grass. Maker, 11% overall when he debuts horses at 2 turns. And I had to fudge the DRF stats a little bit to make sure. I had to get in there and work it around because, like you said, they consider this to be a sprint for some reason. But when he debuts horses at 2 turns in a route, 11%. When Tyler Gaffleon rides those horses, suddenly they're 16% winners. So there is a 5% increase when Gaffleon gets aboard. I think that's a big sign this horse is, if he doesn't win, maybe it's the post. I think this horse has got a load of talent.
Yeah, you look at Mendelssohn's numbers as well as a sire. Turf routes, 7 for 43, if you want to consider this turf sprint, 5 for 31, both 16%, the best numbers he has across anything. So, and remember, Mendelssohn, we remember him on the turf winning here, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and then Breeders' Cup Juvenile turf, then comes back in the Derby, was a very good dirt horse as well, but this is a horse that's bred through and through for turf. I think the 11 could have a pretty nice future. This was, again, one of those horses I considered, but just didn't end up making the ticket. If I did add anyone here, I'm at $54. If you wanted to go to 72 on my ticket, I would add the 11.
You went 3-6-9 in this last race, and this was all I could think about when you said that. It was what Rob says, 3-6-9. Damn, she fine. Get low. Anyways, that's how we know. That's how you know how old Mike and I are. And Rob, sorry, Rob, I'm throwing you in there with it too. But yeah, definitely like the 6 and the 9 in this spot with you as well. That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining us to go through Gulfstream Park's a late pick 5 on Saturday, January 7th. Great to be back here with all of you joining us in the chat. Really love it and appreciate that you're here joining us once again. We got a big year planned. Before we get any further, Mike, let's give out our tickets one last time. I'm going to go 4-7 with 3-7-10, with 3-6, with 2-4-7, with 6-9, 11-12, $72 for me. Go ahead and give out yours.
A 50-cent ticket here, 4-6-7 with 4-6-7 with 3 with 2, 3, 4, 6 with 3-6-9. Cost you $54 for 50 cents.
I've just got Get Low stuck in my head now that I brought that up over there. Hey, coming up here in 9 minutes, if you're watching us live, the Blinkers Off guys will be live at 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. They're going to be covering we got a couple Derby preps this weekend, the Jerome Stakes at Aqueduct on Saturday. And then Shadi in the chat saying that they just released the PPs for Sunday's Sham Stakes over at Santa Anita Park, or at least the overnight's out. Let me pull that up real quick because I am very curious to see how many different Bob Bafferts really got put into that race. I know he nominated, I think, 18 of them. So let's see. The Sham Stakes, race 8. We have a field of 6. 4 of them are from Bob Baffert. 3 of them are owned by the Avengers. You've got National Treasure with Johnny Velasquez, Reincarnate with Juan Hernandez, Newgate gets Frankie Dettori, and then Flavian Pratt's going to ride Speedboat Beach. They're going to put him back on the dirt one more time. You also have Paxa Wallop and Spun Intended. I do believe, aside from Speedboat Beach, those other 5 horses are all in the Racing Dudes Triple Crown Fantasy League, and thank God none of them are on our roster because there's going to be 1 happy person and 4 pissed off people after that race.
Yeah. I'm happy we don't own anyone in that race. We'll just put it that way. We'll just leave it at that. Although I would not mind owning National Treasure, who probably wins that race by a pole based on what you just said there. Do you want to talk Jerome real quick since we do have one in there?
We do. I just put up the while we do that, I'll put the Sham Stakes field up here for everybody to see. Yeah, we've got Arctic Arrogance, so I expect to be a pretty short price in the Jerome Stakes at Aqueduct on Saturday. The Jerome, not known for producing, Derby horses, these Derby winners, but a big reason Mike and I liked Arctic Arrogance was we knew this was a race that Linda Rice would be pointing to, and the horse has done very well at Aqueduct, has never finished worse than second in his career. From that field, Mike, it's hard to see. I really thought that Neural Network might be the biggest threat. It's a Chad Brown, New York bred, broke his maiden on debut going 7 furlongs, should be able to handle stretching out to that 1-turn mile. If you watch the Racing Dudes YouTube channel, the free preview that Aaron did, he went with the 4 Lugan Knight as his top pick here for Michael McCarthy, who's normally a California trainer, but this horse has never been in California in training, only in Kentucky, and now comes here. He lost to Victory Formation last time out, and not a bad effort. And we've seen Victory Formation just won the Smarty Jones Stakes last week. So, I guess my question for you is, who is your biggest threat here for Arctic Arrogance?
Oh, it's got to be the one. I mean, I don't know how it's not Neutral Network here. This race has Meltdown written all over it. It's going to be interesting to see if Arctic Arrogance can sit off the pace. Frenzy de Andiamo, or whatever the heck the name, Andiamo a Frenzy, is going to want to go to the front. Lugan Knight want to go to the front. Circling the Drain, the 2 horses going to want to go to the front. So you have a lot of horses that are wanting to be forwardly placed here, going this mile distance. The 1 horse proven to be able to come from off the pace, should be able to save some ground. Arctic Arrogance hopefully can sit off the pace as well and stalk, where we saw last time out was in second for a little bit, didn't necessarily need to push the lead or have the lead. Going to need to sit 3rd or 4th here and then be able to stalk and pounce if we're going to be a real Derby contender long term, but should be able to finish 1st or 2nd here in this spot, hopefully.
Andiamo a Firenze is a half-brother to Firenze Fire. And then they've got, I think, 1 or 2 more. The dam just died, which is unfortunate, but she's produced several strong horses. Andiamo Firenze is not a bad one. Neural Network, if you're following the Racing News Triple Crown Fantasy League, John White did claim that horse. He was looking for some points for the Jerome. So I'm with you. I think a 6-1 is how we're going to see this come across. And it's not going to be very sexy, but that's what it is. I saw Nick in the chat had a question. What are the rules on coupled entries in California? Because of what I mentioned with the, and I realized it wasn't actually on the screen, but the Bob Baffert Brigade in the Sham Stakes here. You see 3 of the 4 are all owned by the same people there. California got rid of their coupled entries a long time ago. And it's not officially because of Bob Baffert, but it's because they just don't have the field sizes, really. It's not like Gulfstream or Saratoga in the summertime. Like they get all sorts of horses. No, you look at this Sham Stakes right there. Like that's a 3-horse field otherwise.
Well, I guess I'm glad they got rid of coupled entries. I hate coupled entries because rarely you're like, I think they're both going to win. Usually you like one or the other, and you're paying a price for getting 2. Because no matter what situation, a coupled entry is always over bet than the 1 horse that you want to be betting. Because guess what? There's another horse that other people are betting that you don't want to be betting. So you're always getting entries that are over bet. I would much rather you have them split up, especially as a pick X player, where like today there's a 1A horse at Aqueduct that wins for fun. That's 3-5. Well, if it was uncoupled, that horse would have been 3-1. But because it was a coupled entry, you get 3-5. You get a shit price on it, and it knocks down all the payouts. So I'm a much bigger fan of this uncoupled thing than the coupled thing.
Well, on top of that, I feel like I get into a case where if there's a coupled entry, you've got one of them, like you said, one that you liked, and usually that one gets scratched for the other one. Or sometimes they'll name the same jockey on both of them, and you're handicapping, and you're like, one is clearly scratching. I have no idea what it is. And so trying to do that. It's a giant headache. I understand why the rule was created, but it's also like the stupid married couples rule. It's like, that's like 50 years old, man. Can we get rid of that shit?
It also sets up the situation for purse money only horses, because if half an entry scratches, the other half runs for purse money only, which is the dumbest thing we do in racing. No one should ever run for purse money only, because it screws everyone who bet on the race. Because that horse will 100% have some outcome on the race, because guess what? It's a four-legged animal in the way of the other animals. Something's going to change with that horse being in the race. You should be able to bet it, or if one scratches, the whole entry's out. They're both just gone, right? So another argument for why you should uncouple horses. But hey,
if that's the dumbest, that is a very high bar to clear. The dumbest thing in horse racing.
We just saw that only is the dumbest thing in horse racing. Ask Modern Games.
Modern Games! We're still not over it, but we are very happy you've joined us for today. We'll be back on Monday, January 9th, if my math is correct there. We'll probably do something fun. We'll probably do another sequence. There'll be 2 races worth talking about, the Sham and the Drone. We can fly through those quicker than we just did and talking about previewing them here. And then I'm sure we'll have a nice, fun preview. Maybe there'll be a fun carryover we can talk about. But until Monday, make sure you follow us on Twitter. I am at Curtis Kalleward. He is at Somobomb 18, number 1, number 8. Corporate Overlords at Racing_Dudes. Again, if you're watching live, Blakers Off will be live here in just a matter of moments, covering the Jerome, the Sham, the Santa Ynez Stakes, which is a Kentucky Oaks prep race, all of that. So tune in for that. And if you miss it, hey, check us out on the podcast. There are the same feeds that we're at. But until Monday, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this weekend.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb, because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.